recording the cloud right now. Good.
Yeah, it shows it's recording.
Get started. All right, good morning. How's everyone doing? All right, great. I want to welcome you to the first talk of our AI at AU 2023-4. And today we have with us Dr. Asim Ali. Dr. Ali is the executive director of the Video Center for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning. So this time I'm going to turn it over to, he's going to be talking about ChatGPT in an intro to MIS course. I want to turn it over to Dr. Lee at this time. So join me in welcoming him.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for making the time to attend today on an otherwise kind of a gloomy and cloudy day. But that's not foretelling what I think about the options of using this technology. So today you get a 2 for the price of 1 deal. And I know that we're kind of like a typical class period time. So I'm going to try not to dwell on any one thing, but make sure that we're able to have some conversations and some time for that too. So I am going to mention how I'm using ChatGPT in my MIS course. I'm also going to talk about, from the Big EO Center's perspective, how we're supporting AI in education. Hopefully, to share some resources from that. So today, hopefully, you'll get a better idea of who I am and what is Big EO, why and how I'm using ChatGPT in my Intro to MIS class, and then we'll talk about the resources and discussion on supporting AI in education at Auburn. I typically move around when I talk, so I'm not going to do that this time because I got to control the slides, but just know that in my mind, I'm moving around a lot. So thanks. The outcomes that I hope that you leave with today is just a better understanding of the Big EO Center at Auburn, the resources that we have, example of approaching an assignment, a design that incorporates AI, some Web3 kinds of things. I'll talk about what that means in my context. Teaching with AI at Auburn Canvas course. This is a resource that the Big EO Center is creating currently. It's already ready to sign up, but I want to share with you what that looks like and why the design approach that we've taken there, and some preliminary ideas of how Big EO can support the advancement of AI at Auburn, particularly in the education space. So just briefly introducing myself, I'm a 3-time Auburn graduate, got my undergraduate in software engineering. 2 of my faculty are actually in this room. I had AI with Dr. Dozier, and I had a class with you as well. And I had, all the things that I remember. I still have some of my textbooks, in fact, the Tenenbaum one I just kept. Got my master's in information systems management at Harvard College, and my doctoral work in adult education. Good to see my education colleagues as well. Real blessing to be able to work. I've been working on campus now for 19 years. Real blessing to be able to work on a campus and be able to thank my faculty who helped me get to, certainly played a tremendous part in what I'm able to do professionally today. So thank you for that as well. I had Dr. Strong for a class in my doctoral studies. So I started my career in the College of Education doing IT work, reaching out to folks like Jeff and saying, hey, what if my faculty had a shared drive where they could save all of their research data? And then, now I'm sure there's a million times more needs than that. And so in 2014, I had the opportunity to professionally make a move to the provost office and founded Auburn Online, the goal of which was to really take a strategic approach to how we approach online instruction and teaching and programs, particularly at the undergraduate level at Auburn. And then in January of 2020, which timed it really well with the pandemic, started the role as executive director of the Big EO Center. Just want to kind of quickly go through what the Big EO Center is. Some of you guys may have been on campus for a while and not know about it. And so I'll always take the opportunity to share the incredible unit. This is the 3rd iteration of the Big EO Center. It's been around since 2003. And by 3rd iteration, I mean it's kind of grown from just the initial, hey, we're going to have a unit that just does teaching and learning types of support for faculty and faculty development. Educational development is certainly a core part of our unit. Dr. Lindsay DeCopoulos heads that area. Instructional technology, supporting Canvas and Panopto, Zoom, other instructional resources. the easel classroom spaces in Mel, the ACLC, the new building that's led by Brandon Simmons. That's another area of responsibility. We've got a testing services unit that does both vendor testing, prometric, piercing, those kinds of things, as well as academic testing led by Mary Clark. And then Auburn Online is now led by Chandra Bowers, as well, our Associate Director for Learning Experience Design. I named that position that way on purpose. It's because we've really seen a transition from not just online stuff. I really see a future where learning is a lot more hybrid. And so that's why the unit focuses on that. Again, there's a lot of detail, but the slides are in there. I'm happy to share them out as well. But in terms of how we work with folks, in terms of enhancing the goal is how do we enhance the instructional mission, the resources available for the instructional mission at the university. And so if you're ever thinking about how to innovate in your classroom or any kind of learning materials, the Big U Center, me included, should be your first phone call, or email address, preferably email. But thanks for engaging with us. So I teach, in addition to my administrative responsibilities, I was like, I really have no time. What else can I take on? I had the opportunity to be able to teach the information systems intro class in the College of Business. I got to tell you, I love doing it. I come from, my dad was an academic instructor a faculty member in aerospace engineering at Tuskegee, and he, for 45 years, just to be able to carry on that Dr. Ali legacy for him as well. It's just been a tremendous honor. I love being in the classroom. I feel like when we're supporting faculty, being able to, say, these are the challenges we're facing in the classroom. Here's how disruptive it is if something happens. How do we make sure that we're reaching a higher level of quality of service? And just being with the students, being able to hear from them has been a tremendous honor. The course objectives are pretty straightforward: understanding the components that make up MIS, demonstrating the knowledge of how MIS can improve a business. About 120 students. They come from all different majors in the College of Business. As you can imagine, they think about an intro technology course and they're a little panicked and have a lot of anxiety. Technology is not something that they think about in a strategic way in terms of their profession. So they tend to think that this is going to be one of those geek out classes where they got to learn the difference between microwave transmissions versus, radio transmissions and things like that. And I really work hard to make it not that. What I do is say, what, we're going to learn the technology, but I really want you to learn these professional skills through the technology lens. Self-reflection, the importance of being able to have that critical thinking and reflecting on one's own progress, writing for business, listening to experts. I invite guest speakers in different areas, how they use technology in their fields, and then ask the students to write a reflection on, what did they learn from that? Did they learn anything? Did it make any difference to their planning and things like that? How to search for relevant information, working with others to provide constructive peer feedback. I'm going to get into that in regards to the assignment that I'm sharing today. And then using emerging technology and other things as well, just, learning discipline and responsibility and things like that. It's a 2,000 level course, just to kind of tell you a little bit. Mostly about a third of the class is finance majors this semester. Marketing, about a quarter of the class is marketing majors. Accountancy makes up the third chunk. And then a pretty decent representative of the other majors as well. The other is pretty much the pre-business. If we look at how that maps up with the overall enrollment in the College of Business, maps pretty well if you consider that the pre-business folks are typically going to go into the three largest majors, which would be marketing, finance, and accountancy. So otherwise, the majors match up pretty well. So I feel like I have a good understanding of the cross-section of the College of Business students in terms of interacting with them. It's a 2,000 level course, like I mentioned, so mostly it's sophomores in the class, about 2/3, and then some juniors, and there's always a few seniors who are like, oh yeah, I got to take this class too. Please, Dr. Lee, I got to make sure I pass. And so, and then it's real easy if you show up. And then of course, freshmen sneak in there as well sometimes. We've got a lot of freshmen coming in with a lot of credits now, so they're able to take some of these classes earlier. So I do an essay assignment, because I want to do exercises. I want to be thoughtful about the kinds of assignments that I'm doing in my class that allow students to do what I call high impact practices, high impact learning, and an essay is a part of that. This is a reflective exercise. This is how can you gather resources? How can you interpret those resources? How can you share them? Can you review your own work? Can you get feedback on your work from a peer? Can you evaluate a peer's work? Can you do those things? So, I have the librarian, the business librarian come and speak to them about the databases that they can research about where industry is in their areas. Appreciating the difference in terms of writing for business. Sometimes I grew up writing for high school teachers, so I have to and then he sits upon the hill as he watches the sunset, and it's beautiful. But that kind of writing doesn't necessarily work in a business context. I once had a student, they blow V8. I once had a student be like, people who are associated with the company, and I was like, you mean employees? Just write the word employees. And so I want them to identify the emerging technologies, know how to search for those. One of the videos I show them when I'm talking about mobile technology is when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone just 13 years ago or so. And when he first shows swiping up the list of artists on his music app, and the crowd goes wild. They're like, wow, you could swipe up with just your finger flick. And, just a decade ago about is when that technology came about. And if we think about the marketing profession, right, about a quarter of my class, like what the marketing profession is today with the endless scroll and the role of marketing in that, it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that little flick. And so helping them appreciate that there were people that graduated with marketing degrees in 2008 who didn't get any of that, right? And so just being able to know, how do you identify those emerging technologies and be able to interpret them? And then we use the ask method, actionable, specific, kind, how to give feedback to their peers that's useful in that perspective. And the essay assignment, quite frankly, worked well. The only painful part about it was, even if I gave myself 10 minutes per assignment, it still took about 24 hours to grade everything. Worthy task for me, because it was worth to see firsthand what the learning looked like for the students. So the prompt that they worked on was essentially for the way the assignment has existed for years was, hey, you're going to choose your profession, whatever profession it is, and you're going to evaluate, and you're working for somebody who's asked you to evaluate some emerging technology. And what are the pros of it? What are the cons? And then you're going to make a recommendation to your company. And then they submit the draft, they review up here, and then they submit their final version of that. And over this past holiday, Christmas holidays, I said, this ChatGPT stuff's kind of coming down the pipe. I want to try it out. Let's get in. I love how you can look at your history in ChatGPT. And so the first thing I ever did was those prompts. So, if I'm in accounting, what are some emerging technologies? And then it gave me it said, here are the 5 compelling technologies: AI, blockchain, process automation, cloud computing, natural language processing to do data searches rather than having to know code and things like that. And I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. It's compelling. And then I said, what are some pros of blockchain, for example? And it gave me 5 very good reasons. And then I said, well, what are some bad things about blockchain? So, well, hey, while blockchain has potential, here are the negative things, right? So it couched its response in saying, these are the negatives, but listen, it's still a legitimate tech, right? And that kind of a perspective, just a conversational style. And it did all of this in 90 seconds, right? And so what we always hear about ChatGPT, the speed is just incredible of contextual response. And I understand that there are downsides to it, but at this point, I'm just starting to use it. I'm thinking this got some potential. So it gets me thinking, hey, if we're teaching for the future, can we pretend that AI tools don't exist, right? And then when we talk about ethics of AI, there's lots of implications of ethics of AI, but I think this is also for instructors at Auburn an ethical question. Can I teach a class on intro to information systems without making sure that my students understand AI and the implication that it has for their future? At least if I don't know what it is, which I don't, but at least for them to know, to be thinking about this, right? What do you think? Is it fair for a student in 2023 to graduate from Auburn and have never been exposed to AI in the classroom, no matter what their major is? Any scenario where that should be okay, right? So we agree, and I understand that this is a biased crowd because you're here at the AI at AU conversation, but still, we have to agree that there's just not a field that's not affected. As Andrew, says, Andrew Ning says, I was like, I don't know any field. I thought hairdresser, but I had a colleague who said, no, Andrew, your hair can be cut by, and so my hair could definitely be cut by an AI engine as well. And so then that's the reality, right? That's the reality that I was faced with on my flight back with my family. You know, I'm sitting in the airplane thinking, how do I had the answer is yes, I have to use this. How do I do it? So I thought it through, and what I did was I redesigned this assignment to be multi-parts because my core ideas of do they know how to reflect, self-reflect? Do they know how to think a little more deeply about interacting with these types of emerging technologies? Can they work well with others? Can they evaluate their student works? Those were the core things, right? So what I did was I said, hey, part 1A, you're just going to play with ChatGPT. I just want you to use different types of prompts on a subject that you're very familiar with that has nothing to do with class. And then next, I'm going to have you experiment with prompts that deal with the emerging technology, which is largely the essay assignment that I was doing with them anyway, but now they're going to see how AI does that, right? And then the key part being that they write a deep but brief reflection on these interactions. So now they've started thinking about this, and this assignment has already been due, so they've submitted it. I've started grading and going through about half of them already. So I'll share some responses with you in just a moment. Part 2, what they do is they, in groups of 4, they create an 8-minute podcast in a conversational style discussing the most compelling or engaging aspects of their reflections. And I'm going to talk in a moment also about why I chose to do a podcast, but that's what they do. And then after they submit that assignment's going to be due on April 10th. After that, they'll evaluate 3 other podcasts that other teams have done. I use a platform that's plugged into Canvas called Feedback Fruits. I'm evaluating it. It's not widely available on campus yet, but Feedback Fruits lets me do multi-step assignments in a very cohesive way for the students. And then it has a way to tie in with groups, has a way to auto assign the peer evaluations and use a rubric that I want to use and things like that. I know, Paris, you do a lot of work with peer evaluations. And so this is a tool that allows me to do that really well. So the initial reflections have been really interesting. This is the part 1 assignment that they've already submitted. This is one of the students' responses. I just highlighted the key parts, encourage them to explore and experiment. This is an important skill to learn, right? Otherwise would not have done this. Wow. Now I'm like, okay, I'm really glad we did something like this. Hey, thanks for leveling the playing field, because if this assignment was an essay, the students who did their own work are being penalized, right? This technology exists and some students are going to use it, right? And then now they can't. And then, hey, interacting with ChatGPT opened my eyes about the extent of its capabilities in a way that reading articles about it did not. So again, engaging with the tools becomes important. That engaged active student learning that we talked about in the Big EO Center really taking an impact there. And so some of the other responses, the most common response I've seen so far, if I did a word cloud, I think the biggest word would be speed. Just they're amazed with how quickly and how in-depth information it provides. They'll ask a basic question, like the classic example, can you solve this quadratic equation? It doesn't just solve it, it explains how it solved it. On GPT-4, the most impressive example I've seen right now is Socratic tutoring. It's, the prompt you give it is basically, hey, I want you to help me solve this, but never give me the answer, only help me solve it, right? And so then the Socratic tutoring, you can beg it, tell me the answer, no. I want you to think about the variables. I want you to think about what you can do in the next step, and it guides you through that next step. I think that's a compelling use of this type of resource, right? I asked them to try to trip it up, ask it crazy questions. So this one student said, well, how do you walk a dog while riding a unicycle? And, it gave a very thoughtful answer. It said, well, while I don't recommend doing this activity, here's how you could approach it, right? And so those are they're seeing that it has that natural aspect of it, the natural part of the natural language processing. Some other things, I can see myself using ChatGPT in their future examples in terms of a marketing student saying, hey, I can figure out more insights about locations, what buyers are interested in, things like that. Compared to using just normal search, I prefer ChatGPT rather than having to scroll to find an answer. I mean, it's compelling in terms of how we approach working with our students. We just recently redesigned the Big EO website last semester, and I said, you know what, most people are getting to our website resources by searching on Google anyway, so why don't we just incorporate search as the way to find stuff on our website? And that's how it's set up. We just do keyword search, and you show up and you got some key resources. If you're trying to find something on AI, you click search, you type AI, and it says here are the 6 pages that are available, or 6 articles. And now I'm thinking, wait a second, like, am I behind already? Maybe not, but we'll see how, what the next step there is. So then I have them do a podcast, right? They've got these reflections. I want them working with others. I ask them to think about, if you asked a question, does somebody else also ask? Did you see similar responses? Did you see different responses? I want them to be able to compare that. Tie it in with some other classes that you've got. Hey, did you ask it questions that are relevant for your other classes? What are the kinds of things you're seeing? And so I do, just on the side, like I do believe in some of the core ideas of Web3, what it represents in terms of becoming creator economy. I do think I do think it's important for our students to not just see themselves as users of technology or users of resources, but creators of resources and creators of technology. I do a whole different talk on like Web3 and why that's important. We can always talk about that. It's a big part of the AUX, the virtual reality and augmented reality project that I oversee with OIT as well. And that's an initiative that we've got for faculty to incorporate things. But I have them do a video podcast because it's hard to plagiarize. They have to talk authentically. I can tell if they're faking it, right? That's a part of the rubric. Are you just reading from a script, or are you actually authentically having a conversation with peers about the implications of this platform for you? And then they do a peer review of the podcast. I think having a video podcast may help them actually build a better community. I don't know. I'd love to work on something like that, Paris, because I know you do a lot of peer evaluation kind of stuff. If it's not just a generic text essay, if they're actually now evaluating each other's video recordings, do they have a better sense of connection with their peers as a result? I don't know. It'd be worth looking into that maybe. So still need to test that part. So any questions about what I've shared so far in terms of the assignment design, in terms of, yes?
I love the video podcast idea. How long does it take you to create those? Because I can read way faster than
Yeah.
these.
Well, so you can watch podcasts on 2X, and there's a button that I can click that gives me the transcript for any video that ever exists. And so that's the tool that I plan on using to be able to grade. So what I'll do is I'll take all the MP3s, immediately create the transcripts for them, and then just be able to watch those videos. But now think back, I was doing an essay assignment that was taking me 10 minutes on average to grade. The good ones you can grade in like 4 minutes, right? But the challenging ones take around 15 or whatever.
Can you repeat the question one more
Oh,
time?
absolutely. So the question was, how long would it, I love that you're doing a podcast. Seems like it's going to take a long time to record, to grade them all. So I've got 30 groups of 4, right? 120 students. So I've got 30 groups, 8 minutes each, roughly 300 minutes is what I would ballpark, right? But if I can watch, since I can watch them on a faster speed and I can use the transcripts, then it becomes a little bit easier that way. So what I intend to do is scan the transcripts first. I can do that pretty quickly. For an 8-minute, transcript, it's going to be pretty quick. They're penalized if it's shorter than 7.5 minutes or longer than 8.5 minutes. And so then, that's the approach that I tend to take. Yeah.
So if she says scan the transcripts, I'm curious about the medium. Do you have them simply Zoom?
Yeah, that's what I've shared with most of them. I do have a few students who are extra creative, and so I don't want to. I want them to feel like that they can use that creative license to do that. So I imagine that maybe 2 to 3 of the groups, 5 to 10% of the groups will try to do the extra, maybe some kind of extra production, which I'm excited to see, quite frankly. I don't know what to expect. It's the first time I'm doing this project, this assignment.
And is it how when they make the podcast? Is it then housed in Canvas?
It will be. So they'll be able to do the Canvas MP3 and then upload that into Panopto, which is a link within Canvas. And then they can share the URL for that as the submission. So they can either submit an MP4 file, the video file, or they can submit a URL to the video. Both of those options.
Do you have many questions from a technical perspective from the students? Like, how do I put it in Panopto versus?
Yeah, and so I do a few. I have made some resources available for them on how to do it. And then I do, like they hop into my office hours and Zoom. I do my office hours via Zoom. They hop in, it takes them 5 minutes, be like, oh, I see, that kind of thing. I'm not a stickler on you must do it this way or whatever, because especially at this stage, they're just trying to do it, trying to figure out what they're doing. I do in the class, I consistently talk with them about just having humility about the fact that, hey, this is a learning experience. If they were only doing the things that they knew, then why are they going to college, right? this is an opportunity. Yeah, I understand 2000 level course, intro level course, probably the first time I asked them to do a quick survey out of 120 students, 2 of them had ever done a podcast before. So, hey, I get this is the first time you're doing this. I want you to do it the easiest way you can, because I'm more interested in the substance of what you're providing. The production stuff we can always kind of add in later. There are resources on campus I shared with them and RC in the library, the Innovation Research Commons area, those kinds of places. You know, and as this assignment matures, I think some iteration of it will include that type of an engagement. And so I think that'll hopefully address it. Yeah. It helps that I've had that tech background to be able to support that. I understand that that's a difference in this scenario. Happy to take questions on this at the end as well. So we'll continue for now. So I don't want to jump into the next part, which is supporting AI in education at Auburn University. And I want to tell you that before we get into any of the specifics, I just at the surface of it, we don't know where this stuff is headed. And just on the surface of it, I want you to know that I am a resource for you. If you're just trying to think through what this looks like, what kind of impact it has, this is an area of interest for me, and this is something that I deeply care about. If you have peers who are just not even sure where to begin in terms of thinking about AI and those kinds of things, or any technology for that matter, but happy to kind of think it through in terms of the implications to their teaching and learning. I think it's important to be having those conversations in a way that people feel like that they're heard, but also in a way that people feel like that they can have some ideas of what next steps to take and things like that. So just so it's clear, the Big EO Center organizationally, not that it matters, because honestly, even if we were tucked away in a closet, I feel like I would try to figure, just by nature, I would try to figure out how to help everyone. But we are a central resource available to all faculty, all GTA on this campus, and that's something that we take pride in. Some quick hits. I'm going to cover a Teaching with AI at Auburn Canvas course that we've created. I want to share with you why we take that approach, a speaker series thing, and I want kind of a conversation with you guys about what to do with some money that we want to spend on this, quite frankly. So the Auburn Big EO team, we talked about, okay, I was like, I've got an excellent team. I got to tell you, I've got Lindsay Dukopoulos and Chandra Bowers, who are our associate directors, just do a tremendous work. The instructional designers in Auburn Online just do incredible work. And I'm glad I got a chance to share some of their work here. But when I met with them, I said, okay, we want to create resources. We gotta, AI can be all over the place. I want us to focus on the AI and education piece. Let's talk about what kind of implications it has for Auburn faculty and Auburn GTA. And then I want us to be able to create a resource. Let's do it in Canvas, because that is a platform where learning happens. That is a platform that faculty are comfortable with and are using. And this also allows us to demonstrate how we build courses in Canvas. And so this course has multiple different purposes for us. First of all, the idea is whatever we're trying to do in this way is, how do we elevate the capacity of just understanding AI on this campus, right? So if there are faculty who I know many of you are far beyond in terms of your research of AI, you can understand. I was asking Jeff earlier, hey, when my GPT-4 says it can handle 100 requests in 4 hours, or now all of a sudden it can only request 50, I'm just curious to kind of revisit my previous learning, the technical side of where exactly is that bottleneck, right? Of what creates that. But I understand that that's not where a lot of people are. A lot of people are just like, what is machine learning? And if I was going to draw a Venn diagram of AI versus machine learning versus deep learning, where does that stuff fit in? Where do I draw? What circles am I drawing where? And so that's really the approach we want to take is, hey, can we elevate everyone's conversation, give a shared sense of language and terminology so that we're talking about this, that people feel confident in talking about this, the implications of this technology, because now they know some baseline. We've elevated the baseline of understanding on this campus, and that's the approach we've taken. So I'd like to show you briefly how this course is laid out. Sneak peek at the next slide. But so anybody on this campus who's a faculty member, GTA, or staff, it doesn't matter who it is, as long as they've got an auburn.edu email address and some kind of an employee capacity, honestly, they can log in and request to sign up for this course for free. It's an online course, asynchronous. It's and it's a self-paced, so there's no requirement to do things at a specific pace. The approach we've taken is to look at 8 different modules. What do you need to know about AI? What are the ethical considerations? Learning how AI tools will affect the courses you teach. And then we've got a piece on students using AI tools. How can we partner with our students rather than seeing them as people who are somehow making nefarious use of the tools? I think we take that partnership approach that can be a little bit more productive. Rethinking exams, and I want to talk about the speaker that we've got coming in on April 5th in this context as well, but how do I redesign my courses in the wake of the AI disruption? And the reason we've written redesign that way is course redesign is a major, is one of our key events that we offer in the summer for all faculty to engage in redesigning their courses. But and what are other AI tools or capabilities that are coming, and how do I design for them? And then what conversations need to be happening in my department or discipline, and what's my role in those conversations? So if I can kind of show you briefly just the approach we've taken. Again, I just can't say enough good things about the team we've got. Lindsay and Chandra have really been, I love being able to say, what if it was this? And then they just, work together in a remarkably collaborative way to bring about, what that could look like. And so what this course is set up to do essentially is through these modules, we look at 3 different types of ways of engaging with the content. We encourage the folks that are going through the course to explore. We encourage them to play, where they actually, try stuff out, and then articulate. And articulate is a key word on this campus. A lot of stuff going on with QEP and things like that. So let's have the faculty articulate as well, right? And so, so you get to learn stuff. You get to play with the stuff, and then you get to articulate how this implication, is affecting you. And so we present the content through 4 lenses: a technical lens, a pedagogical lens, a theoretical lens, and an ethical lens. And that's how the content is laid out in the course. Just encourages people to be a little bit more thoughtful about what they're such an amount, just an unreasonable amount of information out there right now for a human to be able to comprehend all the things that are coming out. Let's curate some of that. Let's help you put it through some lenses to think about what context makes the most sense for this content. And that's the basic idea for how the course is laid out. Again, those modules will open over several weeks. If you sign up now, you can kind of go along at a slower pace. You can always do that later as well, but we think that by the end of April, the entire course will be ready. We are going back and enhancing some of the modules as the information changes and other information comes along. One additional thing I want to tell you about is that we also are using this as an opportunity to do some digital badging. Those of you that may be familiar with micro-credentials or digital badging will can see it immediately. If not, there's a component in there in the course about what is a digital badge and why does it matter. But as you go through the course, as you do the articulate pieces, it builds into earning what we are going to call an AU AI Explorer badge, which lets you kind of externally validate that you've taken an interest in this topic. And then the experimenter badge will be later on. We'll talk about some other ways of incorporating AI into the course and how we're encouraging scholarship of teaching and learning through that lens, and then recognizing that effort as well through this digital badge. So again, this course is available for anyone to sign up. I'll leave the QR code up, and then I understand that the email that went out, I think I accidentally added a hyphen in the URL, and so it may not go to it may give you a 404 error, but this is the correct URL. It's obby/AI course reg course reg. It'll take you to a Qualtrics form. You just submit your name and email address, which we'll use to add you to that course. It will show up in your Canvas login, just like every other course that you may be teaching shows up or taking shows up. And that course is available now as a resource. Again, really impressed with the team and the work that they're doing. We've got some incredible instructional designers in the Auburn Online team, and this is the work that they've been able to put together. I didn't go through any of the hands-on examples because I want to let that wow you when you go in and really actually start engaging with it. The second part of, so we've got this course, right? How do we get people to go through this course and have them feel like that they're building up their capacity for understanding AI in the context of education? The second way I'm spending some resources is inviting national and international speakers to talk about the implications that are the most important and most relevant most interesting, different kinds of contexts. Happy to get names from all of you if you have ideas for folks that can come. A faculty member in psychology actually recommended Gonzo. He's coming in on April 5th at 1:30. Highly encourage you to come. I've met with him a few times already, and just we get along really well just because of the kinds of things that he's talking about. But his basic idea is, hey, instead of worrying about plagiarism and exam security, let's use AI in a way that basically eliminates those concerns. So can we create assessments that basically eliminate the need for exam security, that eliminate the need for video and virtual proctoring, that eliminate the need for, it's just, so there, he's going to share some examples of stuff that they're already doing at some other universities. Highly encourage you to come by for this. And again, that will take you both on Zoom as well as in person. Encourage you to come in person in the new ACLC if you haven't been in that area yet. Beautiful building. I also want to share with you that we've got, one of the modules was how to partner with students. So what we started to do is do a survey of students, the results will be part of that module. But essentially, we're asking them about the kinds of AI tools they're using. Have they heard about AI? So before I show you some preliminary results, what percentage of AU students do you think are using AI tools already? What kind of ballpark guesses? And you can get an extra donut if you get it right, but there's no penalty for getting it wrong. So we've got about 175 responses already, just to kind of give you an idea.
But major dependent. I don't think
Okay.
it's the same across majors.
That's fair.
And I think more undergrads than grads.
It is mostly undergrads in the survey right now. So no guess of a number. 50% have actually been using it. 60% are actually using it or aware of it. Okay. And then which two platforms do you think are the most popular in terms of AI tools that are being used by students? ChatGPT is one of them. Yep, absolutely. What other tool? Because it's just, I think it's because it gets so much attention. But now we're not counting things like autocomplete on my iOS mail, or something like that as a tool. But okay, AI art thing. Okay, that's fair. Any other guesses in terms of, we think about what students are doing mostly?
Siri showed me that.
Yeah, I think so. So I think where we define the tools here, and we did ask them for other as well. The way we defined the tools here was something that they use as a tool to help them with their classwork for their homework, the class assignments. So what I'll do is I'll share with you some of the preliminary results that we're seeing. I'm sorry? Oh, look at that. We got a winner. So we've got about 30% of students, about a third of the students that we've surveyed so far, again, about 175 students who've taken 176 responses so far. And so about a third of the students are saying, yeah, I've used AI tools already. Have you heard of AI tools being used by your peers? That's interesting because we're seeing a higher number there. What I'm thinking is people don't want to own up to using it yet, maybe. And so there's some interesting things to tease out there, maybe. And certainly as the results kind of get a little bit more formidable, I guess I'll say, then that's something that we hope that we can dive into. What kind of things are they hearing? Where are they hearing those? Are some of the things we've talked about. Have their teachers been mentioning AI tools in their classes? And largely we're seeing about a little more than half the students have said no, which is, I think that's concerning to me. I hope that we're at a point where folks are talking about AI in the classes regardless. So again, by far, most number of folks have used ChatGPT. Grammarly is the most other tool. Some of the other tools are coming in. We've got that art stuff, as well as some math and citation engines and things like that. And so these are some of the initial results. We ask about how do you feel about the impact of this? I'm sorry, it may not be as zoomed in, the text size on the shared screen. So hopefully this is a little better. But largely we're seeing excited, curious, or neutral, very little like concern or anxiousness, but that's still important to acknowledge. And I think, I wonder how faculty would respond to these questions. That's something that we think about as well. So these are just some of the initial results we're seeing in terms of what that looks like. We ask about what their understanding is if somebody uses these tools, are they committing academic dishonesty? Why or why not? Those kinds of things. So we hope to be sharing those results out as well. So Interested in if you'd like for your students to participate, I can send you this slide to incorporate into your slide deck. Would love to have you, share this with your students, just so we can get a good cross section of students in terms of taking the survey. And so in the slide deck that I send out, this will be in it. Love for you to consider sharing it with your students. The OBBY URL for it, OBBY/ChatGPT 23. I think we could have picked a better maybe, so we may. Anyway, so this is just an idea. It's catchy for the students. They understand it. They can do the QR code, fill out. Probably take them a few minutes to submit the whole thing. And so I really want to shift the conversation into and take the last 8 to 10 minutes that we've got to really talk about supporting, like, to hear from you what Big EO could be doing to support the AI at AU initiative. And I really want us to see some of the things that we can talk about. Our wheelhouse is supporting faculty in their professional growth opportunities. Our wheelhouse is developing high engagement, high quality courses. I want to take a moment to share some examples of that. And then, I take pride in, like, a way that I measure my personal success is how much of a collaborative partner can I be in these types of projects and these types of initiatives. And those of you that have worked with me on campus before can hopefully vouch for that as well. And I really, I want to think about what are the gaps that can be filled in terms of our approach to AI at Auburn. For those of you that may not be familiar with the Auburn Online team, the idea is we've got instructional designers, we've got creative designers, people that are specialized in graphic design, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, virtual reality, augmented reality, and those kinds of things. And and I tell my team what I want us to do is build beautiful courses, and that's what we do, is we build beautiful courses. And what it does, it makes the burden of creating and developing new courses just a lot easier for faculty. And so these are resources that we have available. I'm interested in having that conversation and see what it looks like to do that. These are just a couple of examples I pulled up. We did a biology course where we did an augmented reality microscope that's also embedded into Canvas. But then the faculty member does a high impact practice exercise, which is assignment, which is students get to display posters. And when we did the online version of the course, he said, do they just submit a PowerPoint or, and I was like, well, it really takes away, our instructional design. I said, well, that really takes away from the aspect of being able to present an academic poster. And so what we did was we built out a virtual area where students can present their poster. And of course, this is the FERPA compliant version of the generic FIDE of that. In a biology course, again, how do we get students to practice the learning, right? In this example, instead of just looking at a picture of the bones and memorizing them, we converted this into a way that they can drag and drop, and they're touching and they're doing stuff to learn, they're checking their answers. And so these are the kinds of things that we can build. I think there's a real opportunity for us to be able to help build, these types of learning experiences for the AI component. Thoughts, questions? Happy to take those at this time. Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought it was interesting on this speaker talking about how they like exams separate from actually AI being useful for them. I just wanted, like, maybe I know that's not you guys, you're not speaking, but do you have like
an example of? Yeah, absolutely. So the question was, hey, there's a speaker come in who's going to talk about how to use AI to use it as an advantage in exams, right? So I'll give you an example. One of the concerns that faculty have is, hey, I've worked my butt off to create this exam, and now some student's going to take a picture of the question, post it on some website, and now this exam question is lost forever, right? And that's one concern. The second is, hey, what if they cheat? That's the second concern, right? If they just know the question is, and then they talk to their peer and say, hey, number 2 says blah, blah, blah. What did you get for it, right? Those are some of the main concerns. And we use tools like virtual proctoring or lockdown browser that supposedly make that easier. In some cases it does. In some cases there's questions about, does it prevent people from taking a picture of the question? I don't know if it can, right? And so Well, we know that there are tools that can generate questions or generate, if we give some context, it can create other questions based on that same context. So what Gonzo is going to talk about, for example, is if you come up with a question that says, Sally goes to Kroger and buys 2 bananas and 4 apples, how many fruit did she buy, right? That question is fundamentally the same as Tom goes to a car dealership and buys 2 sedans and 3 trucks. How many vehicles did he buy, right? It's a completely different question in terms of if somebody took a picture of it and posted it online. So can we have a tool, for example, that says, hey, here's the Word document of questions that I created. Can you create 5,000 iterations of each question? Right. So now I know that you are the one who had this question. That's one example. There's a few others, of course, as well. For that, you're going to have to come to the April 5th talk. Yes.
Can it create power?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if you saw, but Microsoft just announced yesterday that they're releasing Copilot 365. I really hope that there's a way for us, and I think OIT needs to be a part of this conversation, and HRD needs to be a part of this conversation of developing some kind of training material for folks on campus to be ready for Copilot 365. But essentially, what Copilot 365 is Microsoft taking GPT-4 and embedding it within Microsoft Office, Teams, PowerPoint. So you can say things like, here's a press release, this example that they used in the video, it's not something I came up with. Can you take this press release and create a 10 PowerPoint slide deck out of it? And so it's able to do those kind of things. I saw the alpha version of Microsoft Word and when it had the embedded ChatGPT within it. And so, the person typed in the first few words and then let ChatGPT finish out the paragraph. Or they said, when speaking of the following industry, here are the 10 companies that use this industry the most, right? And then it said, ChatGPT, can you give me the list of 10 companies that use this? And it made a list, right? And so I think the compelling question for us is, if we have students that are writing essays, spell check or grammar check is a tool in Microsoft Word. And we count off the students if they don't use it, And now we're going to say, hey, ChatGPT or Copilot is a tool in Microsoft Word, but you cannot use it. I think that's a very challenging approach. And so those are the kinds of conversations we need to be having.
When is that available?
It says soon, which honestly, I'm surprised that GPT-4 is already out. And so I think they mean soon when they say soon.
How long, maybe you haven't, maybe they haven't experimented yet, but I'm curious, in terms of the higher we go with academic type work, how long of a response, if you program it,
Yeah.
ask it, how long of a response can it give? Because I mean, you see my
Yeah, so you can actually ask that in the prompt.
article.
I got invited to give a talk at a conference, and they said, please come and talk about XYZ. And I was like, yeah, sure, happy to do so. And they said, hey, we're having all of our speakers submit this form. Can you submit one also? And I went and question number 3 is, please provide a 1,000 character abstract of your talk. And I was like, oh man, come on. You asked me to come and now you're gonna make your, okay. So I just went to GPT and I just said, give me a 1,000 character abstract of a talk by a university professional on XYZ topic. And then I took that and I was able to edit that and modify it and submit it. So you can give it the length that you're looking for. I don't think you'll see dissertations written out of it yet, but
Thank God, that was my own,
But I think a more productive use would be, hey, what are some research questions that a doctoral student could ask, and I can demonstrate that if you like, related to the XYZ topic.
You can also ask for, and it gives you really good outlines for literature.
Yeah.
You can definitely ask it,
Yeah.
provide an outline for
Yeah.
XYZ.
When I was working on my dissertation,
I asked it based on what topics I know very well.
Yeah.
And the outline it gives is strong.
when I was working on my dissertation, another colleague said, man, you can use Zotero. I had to slave over doing all these things, or I had to work hard over doing all these things. And And I was like, yeah, I guess, that's the advantage. And then now I'm thinking to myself, like, what, you can just use GPT. I had to actually look up that. So, I guess the circle of time. Yes,
You
sure.
have to be careful also because sometimes ChatGPT is elaborating on things. And if they ask them to give them an outline, that's great. But if you ask for references,
Yeah, it's not
so
gonna be.
sometimes it gives you
Yeah.
the optimal reference, but it's not a real reference.
Yeah,
I tell my students
right.
it's giving you a way to think about
Right.
approaching the question. The information might not be
Absolutely.
so expand your mind
Yeah.
and think more.
So our ethics module actually goes into that about, we prompt you to ask a question, that's relevant to your field. And then we ask you to modify it in a way to help point out that there are some implications in terms of ethics, in terms of like, hey, do women get highlighted in some ways if you ask it for certain types of information? And do, people of color get highlighted? And so in terms of the responses it gives, and those are certainly implications that are part of it as well. Yeah, so hallucination is a part of it. I asked it for a summary of an article recently that a colleague had written because I was going to go meet with them. And it said something about, oh, this article is about tap dancing. And they gave like a really elaborate response about how tap dancing originated in Ireland and uses parts of Africa and parts of Irish dance. And I was just like, this is about scenario-based learning. It has nothing to do with tap dancing. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is not a question. This is like an idea and then that I have been working on the general idea, and then I'd like to test it out. And maybe Auburn campus could be one ideal place where I could put the technology that I build and kind of see the real impact. And the idea is basically related to graduate education, mostly, where peer review is kind of like a central piece. And then we could, like for advanced, especially, it could extend to undergraduates, but I would like to start with graduate education, where we give student peer review assignments of others' work, and they kind of do their own comments. But then there has to be some sort of moderation of those comments before we make a final grade.
Yeah.
Because we don't entirely want to rely on the peer review. There should be some sort of moderation. So if the professor or the GTAs are that moderated, now you have many students and many peer reviews, and you want to kind of combine all the peer reviews to create that. And like my work is like semantic understanding of comparative text and kind of combine assimilate text and like look at the differences. And I could see using ChatGPT to build those kind of tools that will give you an initial draft for the GTA or the professor to actually a paragraph to start with, like, hey, these are the common concerns. These are the like unique perspectives from the peer reviewers. And then based on that, the final kind of like meta review kind of thing it could be created. That because of the scale, that will save a lot of time for the GTAs of the professor. Yeah. Now,
well, I mean, but is there even a way to eliminate the GTA or the professor's time from that? Because if it's a repetitive process, then isn't it just a repetitive process, right? Can we just attach some kind of a metric to grading the responses, so the student, before they even submit the response, are getting an instant feedback on the metric of if the response is good enough or not? And so take a look at there's a product called Packback. Take a look at that one, because that's the AI engine that a few faculty on campus use. That's what it does. Essentially, it says, no, your response needs to be a little bit more in depth, or those kinds of things. Take a look at that and see if that kind of a product can be leveraged to do the extra piece that you're talking about. Packback, B-A-C-K. Packback is one of them that does something like that.
I don't know about the tool, but my point was, so if you have 3 peer reviewers, so I'm not talking about one peer review, so it's like multiple peer reviewers, and you will have multiple perspectives of that evaluation. Now you're trying to assimilate that into one meta review, because it's not just one person's. Now you have concerns, you have things like, there are things that multiple reviewers pointed out, like this is an issue. Some have been mentioned by just one. It's not about whether that's a good response or not. It's about what different perspectives they're bringing in. What is commonality in them? What is unique and what is conflicting in them?
Yeah,
somebody
absolutely.
Says, your experiments are fantastic, and somebody says like, I see.
You're
some
completely wrong.
uses
Yeah.
in the experiment.
Right.
Now, how do you combine all of this into a single meta review? So
Yeah.
That was my,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think as peer evaluation, the use of peer evaluation is a key aspect of building, like, I think we want people to do more peer evaluations. And so I think a tool like that would be beneficial, especially in courses like mine, right? Intro courses where people are just learning how to do peer evaluations. And so there's some real
some
potential.
tool like that.
Yeah. Reach out to me. Let's talk more about it.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions? Any questions on the, any questions on the Zoom world?
I just had an interesting thought, in terms of the physicality of where AI is developing. You might want to look up a company called Boston Dynamics if you're in engineering.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
It is amazing how
Yeah.
they, I guess, program AI with physical robots. that
Yeah.
walk, that
I mean, but
shoot
we've
buttons.
we've got faculty on campus, Eric Wetzel over in CADSI, who does similar work for robots and stuff too. So it's really, is he in CADSI or is he in mechanical? I forget which program. I'm sorry, I'll look it up. But yeah, he's got a robot that he does a show with too. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
And there is one question.
Okay.
I don't think it's a question.
Pure set. 25,000 words. I think OpenAI said max output for GPT-4. Yeah.
So I can read this. You can't see
Yeah.
it.
Well, I see them, but I didn't see a question. I mean,
Oh, I think it's just sharing a reach sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you again so much for your time. Thanks, Dr. Dozier, for allowing me to come by and share this. And again, look forward to the continued conversation. That's great.
Thanks a lot for everyone that came and everyone out there virtually. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the donuts and coffee too. I like the green. That's
Always
nice.
helps.
And for those, when someone had put a perceptive,
Yeah, there's a product called
perceptive.com as a resource for AI to provide
Yeah.
valid and reliable
Absolutely.
scores.
Yeah,
based on
definitely.
peer feedback. So they said perceptive.com.
we have what we call
But no, it's peer-ceptive. Peer-ceptive.